Let's turn now to Garnet Foster, who will introduce our third speaker, the Reverend Najla Kassab. Following her presentation, we will then have just a few minutes left for general questions to the whole panel. So, Garnet, you're on.
Thank you. We are grateful today to have Najla with us. Najla has a degree in Christian education from the Near East School of Theology and a Master's of Divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary. In March 2017, she became the second woman to be ordained as a minister of Word and Sacrament by the National Evangelical Synod of Lebanon and Syria. For 25 years, she has worked with women and children in the Synod. But in 2010, Najla was elected to the Executive Committee of the World Communion of Reformed Churches and elected as president in 2017. If you read the media of the church, you will quickly see Najla's picture and quotes from Najla. On Saturday, I was flicking through the latest issue of Sojourners magazine, and I was confronted by a large picture of Najla. And it was part of an article on the ordination of women in the Middle East. So we are lucky to have Najla with us today, and we are grateful that she will work with us, and we welcome you, Najla. It's great to have you around.
Thank you, Garnet, and so happy to be with you, friends. I'm always fascinated with your willingness to continue with the struggles of the Middle East. As Middle Easterners, we are tired ourselves, but as a network, I appreciate continue to journey with us. We have always talked about Syria, now we're talking about Lebanon, and it seems Lebanon is facing similar challenges in these days. I will be direct. I have a PowerPoint presentation so that we can just mention the points and have more time for discussion. Prospects of dismantling sectarianism in Lebanon. This is a challenging issue. Yes, there are difficulties. You know, it's hard to remain hopeful, but I want to say I am hopeful because I work in a context where working with in the church and with religious organizations, we have potential of changing minds. Sectarianism refers to politicization of religious differences. We differentiate between religion as a social identity and politically mobilized religious groups. A key question centers on how ethnic or religious identities become politicized. Why are we worried about sectarianism in our context? If you ask normal people on the street about sectarianism in Lebanon, many think that it's irreversible. It's hard to change it. It's for sure related to history of regional and geopolitical dynamics that are associated with it. We are called to understand the present dynamics of sectarianism and the material and structural factor that shapes it. This is why, why some people still see sectarianism as important. Many activists and intellectuals consider that the main problem in Lebanon is sectarianism and addresses the issue through an emphasis on corruption, bad leadership, lack of accountability, blind followers and uncivilized citizens, or peace building and intercommunal dialogue. I would just share a few points from an important document that came out on September 28th. And it's a document called We Choose Abundant Life, نختار الحياة. Christians in the Middle East towards renewed theological, social, and political choices. This document was written by 11 people, men and women, in the Middle East, from different churches, Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, and several people lay, and also from the civil society. For 2 years, we spent time during the coronavirus talking about the challenges, the geopolitical challenges that the region is going through, and how do we face them as a church. This was also discussed with other religions. The discussions were also done with other religions. And the document is around 50 pages that I can provide later, but it tackles some of the issues that we're talking about, mainly today about sectarianism. The document was launched in Beirut. It focuses on a vision of society that has a place for diversity, equality, and human rights. The document breaks away from stereotypes, recognizing the commonality of destiny of Christians with fellow citizens of other faiths, and favoring their involvement in the public sphere and the struggle for a civil state, governed according to the principle of citizenship and equality. A state governed by modern civil law, which is able to embrace and integrate all the diversities and pluralities of the Middle East. So the document focuses on this, okay, we are in a difficult situation. What role does the church have? What role do our young people have today in religious settings? First, the issue of a transition from concept of sectarianism to church. This was an important topic that the document stressed. While sectarianism seems to evoke the millet system in the Ottoman Sultanate, the concept of church is captured in the New Testament language, which is the koinonia. The document calls to this shift from how we understand ourselves, not as through sectarianism, but through the real meaning of the church. We cannot understand the church unless we invoke this concept, which expresses the mystery of the church and its original power, making it an ecumenical concept par excellence. So this shift is needed in the thinking of the new generation, and this will make a difference in the future Lebanon. During what we see today is a reshaping time for the region. The past, which was not able to respond to the past, which was not able to respond to social and political challenges, led to an explosion. And we believe now we are in a time of shaping. Certainly, authoritarian regimes, tribal mentalities, sectarianism, and family feudalism have negatively affected our societies and our institutions. So we believe this is a time of shaping, and the church and other religious organizations are called to have a role in this shaping. By the way, this document is also discussed among Muslims, and we will be having several meetings with the youth to discuss how we can really move from these ideas into practical steps. Also, we recognize that there is double standard language in the churches about sectarianism. We admit that sometimes discussion in the church has double language, what is said in the private and what is said in the public. And even this double standard language can be detected in the way of speaking that denounces sectarianism while calling for the preservation of sectarian privileges or promoting sectarianism as a necessity towards the other. So yes, this double, sometimes we hear many people speak against sectarianism, calling for a civil society, but we have another language where people want to keep the benefits from sectarianism. Synodality, ecumenical togetherness, restoring unity. You know, the document calls for ecumenical togetherness, and I think working together as religious bodies and the pursuit of the visible unity of the church do not concern only theologians or pastors. It's a foundational issue related to our common witness to Christ, the divine call to live in holiness, and the mission of the church to serve human beings. The way to fulfill this witness, this call, and this mission is the way of synodality. You know, we focus that it's time that the religious groups, churches work together, and especially in the Middle East and in Lebanon. That will make a difference. The ecumenical imperative requires an effort to transition from sectarianism to being a church. This is the challenge when we think in way of togetherness, of synodality, then it's important that we see how in our working together, we have hope of changing what's happening around us and facing the geopolitical changes around us. I think one of the issues, and I'm almost finishing. One of the main issues is the deconstructing minority complex and protection. You know, Christian discourse in the Middle East and in Lebanon and in several areas is facing today the challenge of deconstructing a minority complex. And this is why many times in which the internal and the external protection is invoked. The document calls that Christians do not need to stay in this minority complex. And many groups, they try to call outside people for protection. I think intensifying the ways to activate our role and to try to get out of this minority complex is important in facing the changes that are happening in the Middle East. We are called to work towards more inclusive notion and foundation for citizenship with equal rights for all. And this is, I think, people want to keep the sectarian system, mainly because many times their citizenship, their rights, they cannot have it. So they go to a religious leader or they go to other powers in order to have the basic rights that they have. Also reforming the political system that's structured along explicitly with sectarian lines, working towards a government of services. You know, for now, the religious institutions have been key providers for social, educational, and medical services. And one of the problems that we have in this country is that the government does not provide services. So it's the religions that, you know, and the sects that do that. And it's time that the government starts to provide these services. And in this way, the religious institutions will not be key in services, but the government should take its responsibility. As religious bodies, we are called to join hands with the civil society. And I believe this is very important in the coming change in Lebanon, because in our group, we had some people who do work with the civil society. We see hope that working with the young people and empowering them to be active in with the civil society will bring change. I think education is key on the journey of dismantling sectarianism. This is where, you know, changing the minds, the Lebanese minds, the younger generation about how do they perceive themselves, where do they see their leadership. And unfortunately, you know, there's a feeling of helplessness today in the Lebanese context. People don't believe that they can do change. And this is why, you know, we hope that this document will rekindle this strength that the religious communities have from within in trying to dismantle wrong ideas that are planted among our young people. I will stop here, and I think this will keep some time for us for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you for those comments that lead us to a different way of looking at some of the issues that the other speakers have mentioned.